Yeah, what Max did is pass. He cannot complain in Singapore when then he does the same elsewhere. So anyway.
So Russell just finished P3 and open the DRS now after 11, please. And stay close to the zero. Stay close to the zero.
Copy that. Fuck's sake. It's a shame for the traffic
DRS, Charles, DRS.
Yes. Don't tell me things 10 times. I'm on the DRS.
How is it possible that in just 24 hours a driver who seemed lost, crawling with an uncontrollable car, manages to come back to be ahead of his most feared rivals? Was it pure talent? A miraculous Ferrari tune? Or just another example of why Lewis Hamilton remains one of the biggest names in Formula One history? Get ready to discover the truth behind Hamilton's incredible qualifying at the 2025 US GP, and why it left Ferrari completely speechless. During free practice, the first feeling was not bad. Ferrari had chosen to focus its preparation on race pace, using medium tires and avoiding seeking the fastest lap time. Hamilton was running in the top 10, and although the car didn't feel perfect, there was widespread confidence that with slight adjustments they would come into qualifying with a solid package. That hope was completely disintegrated as soon as the sprint qualifying session began. As soon as the stopwatch started ticking, the SF25 showed its worst version. Lack of control in slow corners, total instability in hard braking, and the most worrying thing, total loss of confidence on the part of the pilot. In a matter of minutes, the car went from difficult but manageable to unpredictable and dangerous. It was as if the car was running in a completely different direction than the one Hamilton was trying to steer. The Briton, with all his experience, did everything possible to stay in the fight. Every lap was a battle not against his rivals, but against his own car. And yet, he achieved a technical and mental miracle, getting into SQ3 by just 0.06 of a second. A difference so minimal that, if there had been a small error in his line or a slight gust of wind at the wrong time, it would have left him out of the fight. It is in these types of margins where the experience and cold blood of a world champion make the difference. But the real humiliation came minutes later. In the final part of the classification, Hamilton placed 8th, with a time of 1 minute and 33.035 seconds. Not only was he surpassed by Verstappen, Russell, and the McLarens, it was also beaten by Nico Hülkenberg Sauber, a customer car using the same Ferrari power unit. Seeing a satellite team surpass the official team in pure performance is not simply worrying, it is symbolically devastating. It is the type of image that sets off all the alarms within the technical and managerial structure of Maranello. And if this were not enough, Charles Leclerc, the team's other driver, could not do much else either. He finished just behind Hamilton, just 5 thousandths behind. Both pilots were perplexed. They didn't know what had gone wrong. The telemetry indicated time losses in almost all sectors of the route, but especially in braking and slow corners, where the SF25 suffered a total disconnection between the front and rear axle. It was like trying to waltz with an elephant on an ice rink. In his subsequent statements, Hamilton did not hold back anything. It was not the pace we expected. It completely escaped us. His words reflected more than frustration. There was a mixture of helplessness, surprise, and even a hint of disappointment with the team, because what seemed controlled during training fell apart without a logical explanation in the classification. This was the lowest point of the weekend. A time when even the most optimistic within Ferrari were beginning to wonder if they had overestimated his capabilities. It was as if the car was at war with itself and Hamilton in the middle of that battle without weapons to defend himself. However, the most fascinating thing about this story is that this absolute collapse would only be the beginning of a comeback that no one saw coming. But at that moment, while the paddock spotlights were pointed at the leaders of the classification, Ferrari and Hamilton locked themselves in a closed-door meeting with a clear objective: to understand what the hell had happened, and find a solution in less than 24 hours. The United States Grand Prix was not just any weekend. It was one of the few events on the 2025 calendar with the increasingly controversial sprint format. A scheme that completely eliminates the team's usual routine and forces them to improvise almost blindly. And for Ferrari, that limitation was an early condemnation. In this format, everything begins on Friday with a single free practice session. Just 1 hour for engineers and drivers to try to understand the car's behavior on a new track, adapt to the weather conditions, and decide on a final configuration for the rest of the weekend. There is no room for second chances. There is no time for experiments. And in the case of Ferrari, which has been experiencing tremendous difficulty since the preseason in finding the optimal point of the SF25, this restriction became a real technical trap. During that only free session, the team decided to go for a conservative strategy. Hamilton and Leclerc focused on evaluating race pace using medium compound tires. They didn't ride the soft one, they didn't look for fast times. The logic behind it was clear. Prioritize the stability of the car in high fuel load conditions, think about Sunday, sacrifice the short term for a long vision. But that decision, which on a conventional weekend would have been prudent, in a sprint format became a lethal disadvantage. When sprint qualifying rolled around, Ferrari did not have precise data on how the car reacted in flying lap conditions. They didn't know how the soft tires behaved with that downforce. And worse still, they also did not understand how the balance of the car would be modified by the temperature changes typical of the Texas sunset. That is, they entered the battle without knowing their own arsenal. And this is where context becomes more important. The SF25, since its first appearance in preseason, has proven to be a capricious beast, capable of performing exceptionally well on certain tracks with specific setups, but completely unpredictable in unusual conditions. It is a car with a very narrow performance window. If you get the balance right, it can fight at the top, but if you fail by just a few degrees in tire pressure or rear axle height, you sink. Saturday arrived, and with it, the main classification for Sunday's race. The atmosphere was completely different. Hamilton got into the car with visible determination. From the first lap in Q1, something changed. The SF25, still far from perfect, responded. He didn't slide as much, he didn't block as easily, it wasn't a constant fight. And Hamilton, like a master with his instrument, took it to the limit. During Q2, it became clear that he was in another league. While several rivals suffered with changing temperature conditions and early degradation of soft tires, Lewis was consistent. Every lap was an improvement, every braking was millimetric, every corner was an act of renewed confidence. It was at that moment when all of Ferrari began to believe. For the first time all weekend, there was real hope. But the most impressive thing happened in Q3. While Verstappen and Russell fought for pole, and McLaren tried to confirm its technical dominance, Hamilton unleashed a lap that seemed impossible with the conditions he had had the previous day. He stopped the clock just over 4/10 from the pole, achieving an absolute fifth place that, seen cold, could seem discreet. But in context, it was a masterpiece. It was validation of all the effort, talent, and career reading of a driver who, at 40 years old, continues to see what others do not see. Beyond the times, the data, and the positions, what happened that Saturday was a statement. Not from Ferrari, but from Lewis Hamilton. His message was clear. He is still here to compete at the highest level. He did not come to Maranello to be a symbolic figure. He came to lead. He came to win. And although the SF25 still has a lot to settle with consistency, the fact that Hamilton was able to get such high performance out of it under extreme pressure, with an unstable package, is one of the greatest technical and psychological achievements of the year. Lewis Hamilton's fifth place in the US GP standings was not just a strategic recovery. It was a message, a warning that resonated beyond the figures and the timetable. What happened in Austin represents a breaking point within Ferrari, not because of the result itself, but because of what it reveals about the technical project, the internal leadership, and the pressure dynamics that are marking this season. First of all, this result exposes one of the most uncomfortable truths for the Scuderia. The SF25 is not a naturally competitive car. It does not have a wide range of operation. It is not predictable. It is not adaptable. But when the configuration is right and the adjustments are made with millimeter precision, it is able to get closer to the leading group. Of course, with one condition. A pilot is needed with a level of sensitivity, experience, and decision-making that goes beyond the standard. And that's exactly what Hamilton brought to the table. For the Ferrari coaching staff, what happened forces a deep reflection on their work methodology. It is no longer about improving by sectors or polishing individual tents. It is about rethinking how information is interpreted, how simulator data is applied, and how risk is taken under pressure. Because what Lewis did with the car in Austin was a positive anomaly within a structure that has systematically failed to predict the real behavior of the car. The question is not why Hamilton qualified fifth. The question is why they couldn't give him a car like that since Friday. Now, this result cannot be celebrated as a victory. It would be a mistake to do so. The SF25 remains an unstable car, Ferrari still has structural problems in its simulation program, and the race pace is not yet at the level of McLaren or Red Bull on demanding tracks. But this ranking shows that the potential is there. that the difference is not abysmal, and that, if it works with discipline, ambition, and the level of analysis that Hamilton brought, the team can regain the competitive path. This Saturday was not a victory, but it was something even more important for Ferrari. It was a demonstration of resilience, of character, that, despite everything, the fight for redemption is more alive than ever, and that, with Hamilton at the helm, every weekend can be the opportunity to believe again. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.